Hey guys, welcome back to Don't Forget the Art. I am so excited to be back with you today. I am sorry for my time off. We had some family issues here, and I do hope you understand. Some included some surgery and things that needed my attention, and I hope that you understand that sometimes some personal time is needed. But I am excited, and I am ready to get creative again, and I hope you are too. So in the time off that we took, I was able to do some creative things. Unfortunately, I lost my computer. That was the #1 place where I was doing my videos on. So I have had to relearn some ways to get the videos done, and I'm still playing around with that, so I hope you understand and bear with me as we are trying new technology and new things until we get a thing that works well for us again. And unfortunately, I had, fortunately and unfortunately, I had a family member who had to have heart surgery, and luckily they found it in time. But that kind of wound up with the end of April, and pretty much all of May wound up being a bit of a wash for us here, just kind of trying to get our feet again and feet under us again, and kind of, sort out what all has happened. Other things happened in between there, but that seems to be the two biggest ones. So again, as we're trying to get things going here and get adjusted to a different schedule and get a decent schedule going, I'm going to work on getting out our programs again, our projects again. Not sure what I'm going to do over the summer, if I'm going to do weekly or bi-weekly, but we will all figure that out. So today I wanted to talk to you about minimalism. So we're really starting to get to kind of more modern type art, and this is a really, really important movement that happened starting in the late 50s and definitely into the 60s. And even into the 70s. Minimalism is exactly what it sounds like, okay? Now, it's art that is very simple, minimalistic, and one artist that was one minimalist artist was quoted as saying, "What you see is what you see." Okay, there's no hidden agendas. There's nothing you have to think about. It actually appears as though it is kind of the anti-art movement, against expressionism and against abstract expressionism. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, or when I was working on my project, my kids are kind of like, that looks like abstract. Is this abstract? And I guess in some ways you kind of could say it is, but it's simple, and it's art boiled down to its simplest things. Remember when we talked about the 7 elements of art? It's really taking art and putting it back down into its basic elements, one of the 7 elements, okay? So what were the 7 elements that we're talking about when we're talking about minimalist art? Well, we're talking about line, shape, especially squares and rectangles you see repeated over and over again. Although I did see some circles and curved lines and things like that, but we're not doing it for the sake of being kind of artsy and emotional and feel. In fact, when you look at these art pieces, there really is not much of kind of a feeling or anything else. When I told you about abstract, one thing that people like about abstract is that it can really work in any room. It doesn't take over. It just kind of complements the colors or the feel of the room. And minimalism really pulls that back to basics, okay? Why is minimalism important? Well, because from this art movement, you know, it's really gotten into our culture. Minimalism is now, you know, it's a thing where people, it's become an entire lifestyle, not just, you know, an art movement or, you know, simply simplifying with clothes and things like that. No, this has become, you know, for people, a lot of people, minimalists and minimalism has become really a way of life, okay? Not having stuff that you don't need, living in a smaller space, you know, that kind of thing. And it really kind of stems from here, okay? So again, late 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, all right? There are still minimalist artists, you know, whether they would lump into the abstract category, I don't know, but this is what we're going to focus on. So I love this, just the different shades of blue. It's so beautiful. It's so simple. And there are no hidden agendas here. There's no hidden meanings. It's just what it is. Again, a lot of these, when I was researching, they talked about this shapes with squares and rectangles, especially being seen, you know, repeated. So here, working with different shades of gray and black. I'd like to say white, but that doesn't really look like white unless it's just the picture. This is a famous artist who did these where it's just primary colors and black and white. Very cool. We're going to talk about him hopefully next year. And, you know, this, it winds up taking up the whole room. And you can see this kind of scatter of colors and shapes and things like that. But again, it's not like the abstract or the abstract expressionism or expressionism. It's just literally just shapes and colors, you know, decorating a room. Lights are also seen. So sculpture is part of it too. But again, it's very basic. It's very square. It's very minimal. Okay. When I was a kid, you know, keep it simple was kind of the expression. I'm sure they probably see it. So to me, when I'm looking at this art, I'm thinking keep it simple. So I was trying to think of something that I could do. And of course, I was trying to get like super creative and everything. So I wound up using a handful of colors. I used my Roy G. Biv, although I didn't really do indigo and violet. I just did violet or purple, whatever color you want to call it here. I don't know where my red went. So essentially using my primary and secondary colors for this project. Red too. I don't know where red went. Oh, there's red. And as I've told you guys before, and it's something that I have needed to work on, is working on a color chart. So I did that for my project, and you're going to see it in a minute watching me go through it. But I'm hoping that it will encourage you, if nothing else, to work on a, you know, if you can't think of anything else, but I mean, there's plenty of ideas out there for minimalist work. But if you can't think of anything, try working with just the different colors, mixing them up in different shapes. You know, here's my palette. I just made a hot mess out of it, playing around with the different colors and mixing them and putting it on there. We've talked about making color charts in the past. It's a really good idea so that you can tell how to make different colors with your basic colors, okay? There are artists out there who only use the primary colors, white and black. So 5 colors, and they make all of their colors from it. It's a pretty unique and fascinating idea. So I'll see you on the other side of my project. Okay guys, so the first thing that I did was I took a 12 by 12 inch canvas board in order to create this. I wanted to use, as I mentioned before, the 6 colors. Roy G. Biv, well, 6 colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, as you can see here. Then I also added in white and black because, again, I decided as long as I was going to do this and play around with the different colors, I figured I would go ahead and create a color play with the colors and put them down, mix the colors together, and try figuring out what would go where. So I divided the square, 12 by 12 inch square, into 1.5 inch squares, 1.5 by 1.5. And that would give me the space for the 6 colors plus the red, plus the black and the white. From there, I could go ahead and paint in the squares. And with each of them, as they connected, they would wind up playing around with the color. Now, what I could have done to make this awesome color chart would be to kind of vary how much of each color was put in. For example, when I'm mixing yellow with red, I could have it go from one side to the other or from one corner to another, more yellow versus more red, and kind of have a nice blend in between of how those would look. Same thing with how the colors act and react with the black and white, and any of them, just to play around and see how the colors would play around with them. I did not do that. I opted, because it's the minimalist, I opted for one solid color. So I tried to get a pretty decent variation of the a solid color and what it would look like. I also didn't, I could have added with the 2 squares, as you just saw, that I mixed red and orange. I put those 2 squares the same color. I could have had one more red and one more orange. I did not do that. Again, for simplicity's sake. To me, when I think minimalist or minimalism, I think of the old KISS theory. Keep it simple, or, as technically I guess it's supposed to be, is keep it simple, stupid. And there is something wonderful about keeping things simple. And I opted for this to just go ahead and keep it simple. It was a lot of fun to go ahead and play around with these colors. Again, as I have mentioned, I have met personally or through the internet many artists who simplify how they work and how many materials they use, whether they solely focus on one medium, and with that medium, they focus on fewer materials. It stretches them, they say, as artists, to really, use only what you can. For a lot of artists that paint outdoors, for example, they take with them fewer materials than they would if they were painting inside. So I guess that really isn't simplifying overall, but simplifying with where they go. I know when I travel, I like to take my materials with me, but I am very selective about what materials I take, because some of them require, they're just fussier. They're not as easy as others. So, for example, acrylic paints, I don't take those with me. I usually take pencils, color pencils, watercolors, things like that, because they're easy to clean up. They don't take up a whole lot of space. And again, the cleanup, because if I'm going to do something, I don't want to spend my vacation or my travel time doing a whole lot of cleanup. The other thing that's fun with doing this is seeing how the colors play around with each other. There's a lot of times when you're painting something, very, very, very rarely does it come out of a tube. Now, especially when I'm doing some of these art projects here for you, it is a lot easier to simplify them and use what is coming directly out of the tube. But if you look in nature, sorry, that was where I found out that my camera stopped and I didn't realize it. So my apologies. Again, learning new technology, it will hopefully get better from here. So going back to this, when you are looking out in nature, very rarely can you look at a picture or, again, nature and pull out an exact tube of paint and have it match precisely. Very, very rarely does that happen. On top of that, you have, you know, as we've talked about, the different movements where you're using expressionism, impressionism. You're playing around with the light, sometimes even playing around with what can be seen with the eye compared to what you think you would see. So a lot of times everybody thinks, oh, shadows, you know, pull out your black. Well, you know, a lot of times if you look closer at the shadow, you'll see that it really isn't specifically you know, the color Mars black or whatever it is. It is, you know, a variation of that color, or it's a darker, you know, form of another color. A lot of times blues and purples, different colors like that, you know, can really make better shadows than just pulling out whatever color black you have. The other thing you need to understand is that, you know, when you pull out black, and this is something I had to learn the hard way, there's a few different types, colors of black when you start getting into your, you know, artist grade materials. Ivory black, when I mix it with other things, it actually has kind of a brown undertone to it, whereas Mars black feels a little bit more, you know, black. There's another one that has, you know, kind of blue, and you can see it, I guess, in this, because this one was Mars black. You can see that in here, I suppose, as well. So if you want to mix different colors together, you may not like the color that you have. We've also talked about blues. There's a lot of different blues out there. There is phthalo blue. There is cobalt blue. There is names are escaping me, but there's a few different types of blues. When you start mixing them with other colors, specifically with whites or different things like that, you're going to find that they react differently. For example, phthalo blue has a little bit more, to me, has a little bit of a green tinge to it, whereas, you know, cobalt blue, some of those have more of a purple or reddish tint to it. So when you start playing around with those colors, you'll see which blue would work best to make the right purple that you want if you want to mix it yourself, or, you know, different things like that. It's really important, again, to take time to play. Take time to play. It's one of the best things that you can do as an artist. You really don't know how mediums act or react unless you give yourself permission and time to play and just have some fun. This is unfortunately where my video, you know, kind of paused, and I will talk to you a little bit more about how I finished it on the other side. And here it is, guys. Here's my finished project. Now, my apologies, again, trying to learn the new technology. My camera kind of pooped out on me midway through. So again, trying to learn how to deal with that. So I just wanted to let you know. So up in the corner, I started with black. Okay, I have white in these two corners. With the black along here, I mixed each one of these colors with the black. All right, because otherwise I would have had, you know, the red and the orange, you know, the red, the same colors mixing here. And what I really wanted to do was learn how these colors were mixing around. Okay, so that's what I did. I mixed the black with the colors along this strip here. Along this strip on the bottom, I used titanium white, okay? Why? Because titanium white is a white that will mix with the colors, and you'll essentially come out with a pastel of that color, okay? So you want to get pink, mix white with the red, and you'll get a pink. But you don't always want pink, okay? What happens when you just want a lighter shade of the red? In this case, along this line, I mixed what's called transparent mixing white. Can you see that? Transparent mixing white. So if you're into art, and especially into acrylics, don't know if they have it with oils or anything or not, but there's a transparent mixing white, and the transparent mixing white reacts differently than the titanium white in that it will simply create a lighter shade of what you have. Do you see the difference between these two? Okay, especially the reds and probably the blues. It just takes this color, whatever these colors are, and lightens them, but it doesn't turn them into a pastel the way that titanium white does. Okay, and as you can see, when I mixed these colors, I got some really interesting colors here, and this is why you really want to take the time out to play. When you are doing art, one of the best ways for you to learn how the material is going to work, how it's going to work together, and how it's going to work for you is to take the time out to play. All right, not everything that you create needs to be, you know, refrigerator or wall worthy. Okay, there's nothing wrong with taking some time to play and even sometimes failing in order to figure out what works and what doesn't. All right, so I would encourage you to take some time, especially over the summertime, and play around with the materials that you have. It's going to be one of the best ways that you can learn how that works together. And with this minimalist project, it's a really fun time to just kind of play around with the different colors. Okay, again, minimalism breaks things down to its basics of line, shape, and color especially. So take the time to work on those. Okay, those are really your fundamentals of art, and you're going to see amazing things happen when you start mastering lines, shapes, and colors. Have fun, guys. Enjoy. Make sure that you post your pictures to the Facebook group. I would love to see what you are creating. I can't wait to see you next time. I'm really jazzed up about some upcoming projects and summer things that we're going to be doing. And I hope you're all in with me so we can have some fun creatively. All right, guys. Happy arting. Enjoy.